Hey guys, in this video we will build minimal APIs in .NET 7 using Entity Framework Core 7. Minimal APIs are designed to create HTTP APIs with minimal dependencies. Minimal APIs are suitable for microservices and applications that include minimum files, features, and dependencies with ASP.NET Core. Minimal APIs were there since .NET 6 and it helps you to easily create APIs. At the time of this video, Write-Up.NET 7 is recently released. It has included several improvements in performance, new features for C# 11 and F#, .NET MAUI, ASP.NET Core, Blazor, improvement web APIs, and many more. Additionally, you can easily containerize your .NET 7 projects as well as configure CI/CD workflow for GitHub actions. Moreover, .NET MAUI is a part of .NET 7. .NET 7 is officially supported by Microsoft for only 18 months, and it's labeled as a standard term support. This video demonstrates how to create minimal APIs using .NET 7 and Entity Framework Core 7. In this video, we will cover the followings: create minimal APIs using .NET 7, get familiar with minimal APIs, get familiar with Entity Framework and use Entity Framework in minimal API, and create APIs for Crud operation. And prerequisites: Visual Studio 2022 and .NET 7 SDK. And if you don't have these prerequisites, you can download and install Visual Studio 2022 from this URL and .NET 7 SDK from this URL. To create minimal API project, open Visual Studio and click on Create a New Project. And select ASP.NET Core Web API. So select, and we have project name, location, and solution name. So next, and framework. So select .NET 7 and configure HTTPS and use controllers. Uncheck to use minimal APIs. So uncheck and create. So wait, and now let's explore the code of program.cs. So we have summarize and a list of an array of strings, and we have map get. The map get method in minimal APIs can be used to handle the HTTP get request, meaning the weather forecast API in an HTTP get endpoint slash and weather forecast. The default weather forecast displays the date, temperature, summary, and temperature. So now let's run the default project. Control F5 and wait, and we have this result. You can see that minimal API comes with a default weather forecast and Swagger documentation for Web API, same as ASP.NET Core Web API with controller. And up to now, we have only created and explored the default minimal API. So test, try it out, and execute. And we have a list of data. And now we will go for creating new APIs. So adding or creating new APIs. Step 1, add Entity Framework. Entity Framework Core. Entity Framework Core is part of Entity Framework. After the Entity Framework 6, it's labeled as Entity Framework Core. Entity Framework Core is an open source, lightweight, extensible, and cross-platform version of Entity Framework. It works as an object relational mapper or ORM, which helps developer to work with database and .NET objects easily. With the use of EF, developers doesn't need to write most of the data access code. And what is in-memory database? EF Core has the ability to store and retrieve data from in-memory. In-memory database is used to test the application, and it doesn't store data in the physical database. It just stores data in memory, and it's well late. And we can use it just for testing whether our API is working perfectly or not in this demo minimal API project. So now let's move to add EF core. So right click on the project and manage NuGet package. And so then go to the browser tab and in search box enter Microsoft.entity framework core in memory. Wait, and this. Select and install. Version is 7 and wait. Accept and Microsoft Entity Core and in memory installed. And similarly, go to the browser tab. In the search box, enter Microsoft in memory, remove in memory, Microsoft.asp netcore and diagnostics and so diagnostics dot entity framework core, this and install. Wait, accept and close the tab and add model class. So I create a folder models and create a class students, and we have ID, we have so name, and name is required, and we have email, a string email, and email is required, and we have phone. And add DB context. So create a folder, context, and create a class, my data context, and DB context, and create a constructor for my data context, and in here we have DB context options, and send my data context and options and base options, and then add data context in program.cs. So for example, in here builder.services add DB context, my data context, and semicolon option. So option dot use in memory database, and database name is students. db. And so create a comment, add db context. Here you can we are using in memory database, and create new APIs. In minimal API, we write all the API code inside the program.cs file. So now let's go and add a basic API endpoint for Crud operation of the student class. So save API or post API. So write the code to save a student data using Entity Framework Core 7 in minimal API. So app.map post, and we have pattern or URL, for example, add a student, and function async. We have a student as a parameter, a student, and we have data context, my data context, and db. And so db dot student in data context we should have a db set of a student, db set a student, and the name is students, and set a student. Save and close, and db dot students dot add a student, and await db dot save change async, and return results dot created, and save a student dot id, and send a student. And create get all HTTP method. So we have app.mapget, and so copy this, paste mapget, and get all students. And for example, change this URL, save a student, and so get all students, and async, remove this, we don't need a student, and remove, and so return db dot students dot to list async, and use await keyword, and in here await, and add async. So update a student, so copy this, app.map put and update a student and send ID. And async, we have ID, we have a student, and we have DB context. So remove this, and so get a student, where a student. So input a student, change name, where a student is await db.student students dot find async and send ID. And if the student is null, return results but not found. And if a student is not null, so change a student name. A student.name is input a student dot name and email and await db.savechange async and return results dot no content and remove these contents. And so map delete method to delete a student. So copy this, map delete, and delete a student. We have ID and we don't have a student, and we have a student. If a student is null, return not found. And so db.students.remove a student and save change and return results okay and send a student and save. And the last API is get a student by ID. So copy this, app.mapget get a student, and we have ID in here int ID, and so var student also we have db.students dot find async use await keyword and send ID. If a student is null, results dot not found, and else return a student or return okay results dot okay and send student. And in here we have results dot okay and send students. Save. And in the next part we will test the APIs. So now let's test our APIs. So Control F5 to run the project. Wait. So we have this result. So add a student. In here, remove the ID. ID is a key, and the name, for example, is Michael or Joe. Email is joe@gmail.com, for example, and phone is 123. Execute, and we have Joe email and phone, and ID is 1. So get all students. So for example, add another student, for example John. Email is john@gmail.com and 456. Run again, and we have this, and ID is 2. So get all the students, try, execute, and we have Joe and John. And get an student, for example ID 2, run. We have John, and ID 1, we have Joe. So for example ID is 3, and we don't have result. And update a student. So for example update John. ID is 2, remove the ID. The name is, for example, John 2, and so copy John and paste John 2 at and 456 and 2. Execute, and we have 204, no content. So we get all users. We have John 2 and John 2, and get a user, for example 2. We have this result, and delete John. So, or delete ID 1 Joe. Delete Joe, ID is 1. So execute, ID is 1, and we have removed Joe. So get all users, all students, and we just have John and ID 1, and we don't have result.